Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, hosted by Yapo and featuring expertise from Forrester. The topic for today's conversation is a very relevant one in today's retail economy. Everyone is focusing on how to build emotional loyalty and how to ensure it is an ROI positive solution that is future-proofing businesses and driving top-line revenue growth. My name is Katie McKeever, and I am the product marketing lead for our loyalty solution. I'm joined today by Mary from Forrester, who is going to be sharing a lot of expertise specifically on how brands are successfully building this business case for loyalty, with some key examples of specific brands and what they're doing today to earn that emotional loyalty from customers. So just to give a brief intro of why this is a really relevant conversation for Yapo, is that we really focus on strengthening customer relationships for brands. So we offer solutions across engagement solutions that help brands reach and connect with customers wherever they are. We offer community advocacy solutions which initiate and nurture those customer communities and enable customers to be a part of their brand voice. And lastly, we offer retention solutions, really focusing on how to win customers for life. So with that, I'll pass it over to Mary to dive into the topic for today's conversation. But thanks so much for joining us, Mary. I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. And I'm really pleased to be here today to share Forrester's perspective on what's happening in customer loyalty and why now. So a quick agenda, we'll talk about why loyalty is more important now than ever. I have some key things or important things to think about when you're creating or updating your loyalty strategy and program. We'll talk about how brands are measuring loyalty today, and I have laid out the key elements for a business case that you may need to build to get funding. And then finally, I'll have some recommendations on how to move forward. So today in 2021, maintaining relationships is an urgent priority. We all know that. And actually, Forrester predicted last year that investment in loyalty and retention will go up 30% this year because brands are investing. And why are they investing? Well, among other things, the pandemic. Brands are trying to stay connected to their customers, whether they are able to serve them today or not. And some brands have gained a lot of new customers because they were able to step in and serve. And now they want to hold on to them. So what is loyalty, though? We think about it at Forrester as being characterized by three primary behaviors a consumer has towards a brand: retention, so how likely are they to stay with the brand; enrichment, how likely are they to buy additional products and services; and then advocacy, will they recommend the brand? But ultimately, loyalty is an outcome. And it's an outcome of the experiences that a consumer has with a brand. So our CX index folks measure customer experiences by their effectiveness, their ease, and the emotion that's generated. How did interacting with the brand make the customer feel? And we're going to talk about that a lot today. So I know it feels like I'm going about this a little backwards, but so many brands want loyal customers, but they don't understand that great customer experiences actually link to loyalty metrics like retention, enrichment, and advocacy. And when the brands do understand that, too often they focus on improving the experience of the things that they think will be valuable, not necessarily what customers actually care about or find valuable. And loyalty is an outcome of everything a company does, not just their loyalty program. So all your marketing, your CX, your processes, people, your culture, your technology efforts across your enterprise have to be worked on together. It's a company-wide responsibility, and you need alignment across the enterprise. So what are the things you need to think about? Well, I'm going to share some data about how consumer behavior has changed and is changing. And it's really critical that brands pay attention to their consumer behavior in order to meet the evolving needs. So we all know that regardless of what state we're in, whether we're in a pandemic state or a normal state, which I don't know if we'll return to, we all know that customers expect brands to understand them and to know their needs. So to help with that, we've been tracking some key characteristics of consumer behavior. And I'll let you know that the data I'm showing is all about US online adults. Forrester tracks data across many countries, but today I'm just showing the US data. So their willingness to experiment has gone up dramatically in the last 10 years, from 44% to 56%. Consumers say they're always willing to do or try new things. So they're really thriving on novelty. And their device usage, they use multiple devices daily, and they've really come to rely on technology. 62% now say that technology is important to them. In fact, in April 2020, just a month after the US started the pandemic shutdown, 44% of US online adults told us they had done something to upgrade their home technology, whether it was an increasing internet speed or purchasing a new device to enhance streaming or upgrading their Wi-Fi or modem. They're also far more smart about what they read online, and you can see a huge growth in the number of folks that actually read peer reviews before they make a purchase. But also, according to Forrester's data, 31% of US online adults now feel more negatively about social media than they did before the pandemic. And 26% say they're skeptical of all mainstream media sources for pandemic-related information. So they're being very careful about what they take in and what they believe. And then in 2017, we actually crossed the tipping point where 52% of US online adults agreed that company values influence their purchase decisions. And by 2019, values-based employees and investors joined consumers in demanding that companies take a stand on social impact issues and prove accountability. And 2020 marked another turning point. The COVID-19 pandemic forced leaders to do an existential examination of their priorities and to take really swift action to protect their employees, their customers, their partners, and their local communities. And you can see here on this chart that 60% of US online adults will consider at least one of these factors up at the top: their brand reputation, the brand values, and the environmental and social impact of the brand before they make a purchase. So that's more than half of consumers think about at least one of those things. Now, obviously, product price, shipping information, that's all still extremely important, more important than this. But what's critical is to acknowledge that your consumers are thinking about values. And there's newer values that are emerging. Consumers are now prioritizing brands that commit to employee experience and community outreach. The crisis of 2020 really hit a geopolitical nerve. It mobilized groups around racial and social issues like the Black Lives Matter movement, and it really sensitized consumers to the environment around them, all of which leads consumers to re-examine what they stand for and which brands reflect those values. And most immediately, consumers' heightened social consciousness is really driving them to reward companies that care for their people. 39% want to work with companies that prove they treat their employees well. and 35% are looking for brands that actively help their local communities. And then additionally, 32% are looking at the environment, and they want environmentally concerned brands. But at the same time, we still got the money issue. 25% of these concerned consumers say they're really not financially prepared to handle the long-term impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so they have this desire to make values-based choices, but a need to buy the most cost-effective products. And that will become a source of tension. And finally, these are a lot of the issues that consumers expect companies to take a stand on: personal health and safety, employee experience, climate change. 60% of US consumers over the next 24 months will go out of their way to find brands that take a stand on the values they care about. Okay. So loyalty programs actually influence consumer decisions, right? 73% say they save them money, 63% say they influence where they make purchases, and another 63% say they spend more money with companies they have a loyalty program with. And so loyalty programs are incredibly popular. In fact, 86% of US online adults belong to loyalty programs. So this is important. It's great. They like them, they use them, but the impact on you as a brand is yours has to stand out. It can't be lost among the millions of programs there are out there. You've got to figure out how your program is different and will appeal to your specific customer base. And so you start by focusing on the consumer trends that we've been talking about and look at those values, because values-based buyers are actually more loyal. So this is across the top is the same data I just showed you a couple of slides ago, but I filtered this data from our benchmark survey to look at the US online adults who belong to loyalty programs and also said that they regularly purchase from brands or companies that align with their personal values. And look at the changes. So instead of 73% saying that loyalty programs save them money, 81% believe that. And on the right, 75% versus 63% say they spend more money with companies they have a loyalty program with. So values-based buyers are more loyal. So now let's go back to the point I made earlier about loyalty being an outcome of the experience a consumer has with a brand. You're probably all focusing already on the effectiveness of the experience, the ease of the experience, but the emotion, that's much harder. And customer experiences, as I've said many times, they drive emotion. And emotion then drives behavior. But it's not just any emotion. You really want to create a connection where customers feel appreciated, happy, and valued, because those are the emotions that bind brands, that bind customers to brands. So, and you can see that consumers that feel appreciated, 3/4 of them will stay with the brand, so there's your retention. 80% will spend more, there's your enrichment, and 87% will advocate. So how do you go about generating these emotions? Well, one of the big key factors is employee empowerment. Let your employees know, they're the ones that see your customers when they're in person. Give them the opportunity to generate loyalty. So Dutch Bros Coffee Company is on the western half of the United States. It's a huge coffee company, and they have broistas, not baristas. And they actually empower their broistas to give free drinks when they feel it's appropriate. There's no forms, no approval factors. There's no, you're giving away too many drinks. And here's a rating. What they did, Dutch Bros actually put up a loyalty app in January. They got 1 million positive reviews in the first month, and Apple was surprised at it and actually investigated and found they were true. But here's one where a woman, she had lost her dog not long ago, and she drove up to Dutch Bros, and the broista noticed right away that the dog was gone. She explained it, and the broista bought her drink for her and gave her a farewell doggy treat. But what she says here gets to the heart of the emotion. They go the extra mile here to make you feel special when you think no one notices. So she feels appreciated and special. Another way to generate emotions is personalization, because when you do it right, it's really delivering that scarce resource, consumers' focused attention, which is hard to get these days. But we found that even the most rudimentary tactics, like including a customer's name in a communication, can be helpful. And content and experiences that are relevant to the consumer's context in that moment actually cut through the cacophony of all the brand advertising. And consumers, we know they tell us they want tangible benefits like instant discounts. 65% of them say instant discounts are important. You know, other currency like points and miles, reward certificates, those are all important. But more important than that 65% for instant discounts is actually 68% say that getting special offers that are not available to other customers are important to them. They want to feel special. And on the personalization side, 55% say that getting messages, offers, and promotions that are more relevant for them is one of the reasons they actually join loyalty programs. They want to feel special. So those are some ways to think about the emotion. Now, there are two primary approaches to customer loyalty strategy. There's a structured loyalty strategy, and that explicitly has a program. So it centers around a give and get value proposition. So Amazon Prime is a program, Starbucks has a program, all of these do. And the good things about these is they're transparent. They collect lots of customer information and behavior data, and they reward and incentivize for specific behavior. On the other hand, they can be very costly to implement and manage. And as I said earlier, it's a very competitive and noisy market out there. So your approach has to be something unique. On the other side, there's the unstructured loyalty strategy, and this is where you have a collection of initiatives aimed at increasing outcomes that we talked about, retention, engagement, enrichment, but you don't have a formal program. So Apple is a great example of this, and in a couple of weeks, they have a new iPhone coming out, and I know we'll see pictures on the news about, you know, people lined up around the block, you know, sleeping in tents for 2 nights before the iPhone comes out so they can get the latest. So they generate a ton of loyalty without a program. Now, the benefits to these is the cost primarily, because most firms are already invested in initiatives that are tied to these kind of outcomes, but also they inherently focus more on experience. And remember, experience drives emotion, which drives behavior. On the negative side, they're not transparent. You don't have the same data collection opportunities. And we often see organization and process silos that make it difficult to align all these different initiatives. And so things are going on their own pace and not necessarily in a collected manner and most efficient manner. But marketers have a lot of tactics to drive loyalty, and you can see on here that the one most frequently used is a loyalty program, but they use email and customer service and lots of other things. So there's many components that are part of a marketer's strategy toward building relationships with existing customers. But each of these comes with their own objectives, teams, and metrics. And this creates a lot of challenges, and there are a ton of challenges. We have challenges in our jobs every day, but the biggest one that we learned from 43 brands that were customer references for the vendors that I evaluated in a Loyalty Solutions Wave earlier this year, 43 of them, they said that the biggest frustration for them was personalizing offers, content, and experiences. But what's good to know is that we have solutions for this. You can see from this list that you need the ability to understand your customer by leveraging data. You need to connect to different communication channels, and you need to have robust integrations to your other marketing systems and data. So let me just make a point about the personalization though. We all know that data deprecation is a big challenge that's arising for consumer marketers today. So the enhanced privacy laws, the imminent, although delayed, demise of the cookie, and lots more tools that are blocking ad tracking software, all of that stuff is reducing the data marketers can collect about consumers. So enter what we call zero-party data. You know that to personalize offers, you need to have that customer data. So zero-party data is a term that Forrester coined that's really first-party data, but data that consumers intentionally and proactively give you in exchange for some sort of value. So it could be anything, their preference data, their personal context, how they want to be recognized. It could be, you know, do they eat vegan or do they eat meat? How many kids do they have? And so loyalty has really become a boon to marketers in this age of data deprecation because it enables collecting this zero-party data. And I'll give you just one quick example about that. Kellogg's has a quiz on snacking habits and tastes, and in exchange for doing this quiz, you get loyalty points. So it's a fun quiz, it's short, it uses a lot of imagery, and it's very intuitive. But it, you know, so it has you pick, do you want crispy or crunchy snacks versus soft? Do you like savory versus sweet? They ask you questions like that. It's very short. So what they do is once they get the responses, they segment customers into a snack personality and they make product recommendations. So they use this to tailor their marketing messages, and occasionally they use it for product research. So that's just one way you can collect data. But when you have a loyalty program, you can ask about a lot of things. Okay, so those unstructured strategies that we talked about, like the apples, they can be extremely powerful. Here's Chewy.com. It sends personalized notes to consumers with shipments. This one, you know, I hope your pup loves the blue buffalo dog food. I mean, I'd love to get that in a box. And they've been sending out more than 1,000 free paintings every single week, even during the pandemic, to their customers. And they get the images of the pets off of social media. But they hope that it's a personal touch that helps them stand out and win customers for life, despite what challenging times we may be in. And based on the really huge media response, it appears that their strategy is working. On the other hand, Walmart came out last year with a structured program, Walmart Plus, which is actually a premium program. It costs $98 a year. But while everybody was talking about how it's an Amazon Prime competitor and they were comparing its benefits with Prime, Walmart was actually investing in an emotional pitch that leaned into the convenience of the program and how it gives members back time to do the things they want to do, the things that matter to them. And the results? Well, in 5 months after they launched the program, they had gained already approximately 8 million new members. And they find that this is really helpful for their Walmart, for their grocery shoppers. In fact, 26% of the customers who purchased groceries in the last quarter are Walmart Plus members versus 13 to 14% of all Walmart.com. So that's become very effective. And now I have just a couple of quick case studies to give you some other ideas of successful programs that really focus on experiential loyalty. So we all know Sephora, and Allegra Stanley Krishnan, who's the VP and President of Loyalty at Sephora. She said that our unique experiences bring life to the emotional component of loyalty, which is so important and really drives the majority of engagement with our clients. So they have experiences. You can sign up for a virtual yoga class. You can use your points to get a custom lip shade or have a beauty chat with a beauty ambassador. And you can see those were sold out really quickly. And they have 25 million members in the program, and they're members in the top tier that spend their top tier spend more than $1,000 a year with Sephora, and they drive a significant amount of sales. But they also keep evolving their program. So last year, they redid their redemption options to align with consumer values. And Sephora has come out very strongly against racism. And what they did last year was not only can you use your points to buy a new makeup case or to buy hair products or whatever you need, you can now also use your points to donate to the National Black Justice Coalition, which is an organization that Sephora has vetted and feels is very effective combating racism. The Gap, they just made some big changes. In September of last year, it tied all together their loyalty programs into one. So the Gap, Banana Republic, Old Navy, and Athletic are all part of one loyalty program. They call it One Membership, 4 brands. And they actually listened to their customers a lot. They spent time figuring out what their customers liked about their loyalty program and what they didn't like. Some of the things they found was that the redemption thresholds were too high, so they reduced them from 500 to 100 points. Consumers also told them that they want to be able to earn their points, say at Old Navy, but spend them at Athleta. So their points are held all in the same place. You can earn and burn across the channels. And they also continue to have their credit card program, which gives extra benefits. So these are just a few screenshots that I pulled from their website. But since September last year to July of this year, 19 million new members signed up for this. And they have a total of over 37 million members. And they created some other tier-related perks. So free shipping is something that consumers really like. Well, if you spend less than $500 a year, you get free 3 to 5 day shipping when you order more than $50. If you spend more than $1,000 a year, you get free 2 to 3 day shipping on orders over $50. And they do have some rewards that are unique to the brand. So at Banana Republic, their high tier customers get free basic alterations. Athleta gives you access to the Athleta community. So they still maintain their brand statements, their brand originality, but they've made it easy for the consumer to reward all of the Gap brands with their purchases. And lest we forget, those consumer values, they have a do-good component. Each of the Gap's brands has at least one what they call a do-good component. So consumers can donate points to one of these 5 funds. And so you can see the Imagine Mission Fund for the Old Navy, that's to support youths and keep them active and out of trouble. We have the Wildlife Fund affiliation from Banana Republic, the Equal Justice Initiative from the Gap, and the Gap says it will match up to $1 million in member donations. So they're doing the right thing. Okay, my final example is REI. And REI offers both real REI Adventures and Classes and Events. And they are a premium program as well, but it's relatively inexpensive. They have adventures here that are custom, and they really seek out specific segments in their customer base. So for an example, cycling enthusiasts can do a trip in Death Valley, and there's a women's kayaking weekend around the San Juan Islands, and they have member and non-member prices. They also have these classes and events. Some of them are virtual, some of them are in person, and some of them are just streamed. And they include in here their On the left here, some of their values, and Earth Day Climate Action Month. You can go and participate in cleaning up California parks. But they have all kinds of things. An adult can learn how to ride a bike, and that's different from a child learning how to ride a bike. You can get kayak lessons, and they even have movies, and they have a documentary on wolves and coyotes that's available only to members. But the really cool thing about this program is that they have a blog. They call it their journal. But this is where they get to publicize what people have been doing with their experiences and how happy they are and how much they're enjoying them. So they write up outdoor stories from the experiences and put them in the journal. They have movies about some of these adventures, and then they have user-generated content that lets the users tell about their own experience. And so, you know, using this is a huge marketing opportunity to really publicize and share the happiness that you're offering to your customers. And it's a great way to move your program forward. Okay, measurement. Let's switch some gears here. We'll talk about measurement. So I talked a lot about generating an emotional connection with consumers, and companies are really pivoting towards experiential loyalty. And that's because brands are realizing that loyalty and engagement are more nuanced than just a behavior or a set of behaviors. So they have to consider both the emotional side of loyalty as well as the behavioral side. So how the customers act towards the brand and how the customers feel towards the brand. But when they're measuring today, they're really measuring primarily still by behavioral metrics. So their purchase behavior, the incremental sales, the campaign performance, redemption rates. What they need to start focusing on is also those emotional metrics. So how satisfied is the customer? What's the net promoter score? What's their sentiment? What's their brand affinity? And here I have a quick slide. It's a chart to show you the primary ways where you can measure both behavioral loyalty and emotional. And on the emotional side, you really want to look at surveys to start, and then move towards sentiment analysis and some in-depth surveys. Understand what the consumers are saying about you, how they feel. Then you can go as far as having neural measures where you bring customers into a lab and you do eye tracking and EEGs and measure their galvanic skin response when they see a particular offer. But the bottom line is you have to look at both of these. You have to combine these metrics to determine the overall loyalty of your customer. Okay. Now you're up to date on consumer behavior trends, how customer experience lead to emotions that generate behavior, and you've seen some examples of successful programs. And when you're ready to build that business case for your loyalty investment, here are the key elements you need to consider. There's your benefits, which you have to think about people, process, and technology. There's your costs, which are both quantified and some defined metrics. And then there's some flexibility. There are new opportunities that are created because of your program. But you also have to look at the risks. And Forrester has a model we call total economic impact. And we actually have online a spreadsheet for you to do this yourself. But you need to account for all the costs and benefits and then assess the risk. So ultimately, in your business case, you start with the revenue, understand what's retained, what comes from improved sales and customer value. You add to that any savings you're going to get from efficiencies that you're deriving and the fact that you're driving desired member behaviors. You subtract from that your costs. You know, how much does it cost for the technology, the testing, the implementation, and then you have your ongoing operations and maintenance. And then you have to multiply that by a risk factor, which includes time. You know, how long will it take to do this? Any cost overruns and any missed goals. And so if you look at all of those together, you can build a business case, and I can certainly help you with that. So let's get to the final recommendations. When you're thinking about creating or revamping your loyalty program, you should really, one, start with the strategy before the program. Whether or not you're having a program, you need that strategy first, okay? And along with that, build a CX strategy. So have your CX team mapping those customer journeys to uncover where there are opportunities to build more loyalty. Survey your customers, get to know what they want, not what you think they want, okay? Understand what's most important to them. Then consider these things when you're creating or updating a program. Consider your experiential and your transactional elements. Collect that zero-party data. Consider building a mobile app for the program. Those are very popular, and it brings your program with the consumer when they're in the store. Communication strategy, you need to figure that out, your advertising and branding, and certainly you have to have customer service support for your program or your strategy. Finally, define what you're going to measure and build your business case. And then you can just go. It's as easy as that. So that's what I have to share with you today. I thank you for listening, and I think we're ready for Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary. We really appreciate you sharing expertise really across everything from why loyalty now, and really giving merchants the tools for how they can build that business case. And really appreciated a lot of really great examples from relevant brands today. So thanks so much for sharing. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the questions. So the first one we have is related to some of the change, of course, with the return to physical retail. So can you share how brands are offering connected loyalty experiences and building emotional loyalty both through online and offline experiences?
Yeah, you know, that actually comes to the integration, and this is why an enterprise-wide strategy is important. You need folks from across your enterprise to help you figure out how to connect those experiences. Your employees in the stores or the customer-facing employees have to be aware of the loyalty program, have to be educated on it, and also, ideally, they should have access to that loyalty program. So that they can give tips or say, hey, I see you're eligible for this reward if you just, you know, look at this. So you need the employee side, you need the technology side, and you need your systems integrated so that your call center is talking to the loyalty program. They can see that activity. The loyalty program is talking to everybody, to the customer, to the branches, the stores, etc. So it's a technology integration piece along with employee engagement and education.
Great. So you mentioned the importance of obviously the technology as it relates to point of sale for retail employees, and you mentioned the call center for customer service agents. Are there any other key marketing tools that you deem as critical to be connected to the loyalty solution?
Ultimately, and I'm writing about this for the future of loyalty, I think it's not very common today, but I'd really like to see e-commerce connected because e-commerce is part of the purchase experience, especially when you're in a pandemic and working online. I'd like to see the POS. You know, ideally, you should be able to use your points, burn your points at the point of sale. And that's not very common today either. So I'm looking to see more integration between loyalty platforms and e-commerce platforms, POS, and anything that impacts that experience to make it a more frictionless experience. That also means connecting to your cross-channel campaign management tool, your marketing cloud, to make sure that you're sharing the right data, you know, you all got the same data. And there are tools in some of these other clouds that will enable you to do things like real-time offer management. And you want to make sure that you're not sending multiple campaigns to a loyalty member at once. So coordinating all of that requires those technology integrations.
Yeah, we certainly talk a lot about how you can ensure that there's connected experiences, unified experiences, and frictionless, because at the end of the day, the customer has no idea, or do they care how many different solutions there are that are speaking to them. They just expect the brand to be speaking to them through one connected experience and brand voice.
But remember, the tenets of experience are effectiveness, ease, and emotion. So ease.
Ease. Exactly. So one of my favorite questions is, what do brands typically get wrong when it comes to customer loyalty, outside of obviously disconnected experiences with data silos, but anything else that you've really realized is a key challenge in building a successful loyalty execution?
Yeah, well, the first thing I see all the time, and I've mentioned it a couple times in this presentation, is that they don't listen to their own customers. They think they know what the customers want and need. So, tie yourself back to the customer, hear what they have to say. But also, they don't personalize. Okay, here's your opportunity to personalize. We know that personalization helps build emotions, but they have often just a ubiquitous program. Everybody gets the same thing. Nobody feels very special. And so while I may get points when I go to that fast food restaurant, and extra points if I fill out a survey, does that really make me go to that restaurant versus another when the experience isn't any different from me? So that's the key thing I think they do wrong.
And last question is just related to, obviously, there's been a digital acceleration to what's happened specifically within retail, and there's a lot of competition now for, like, every brand is competing for the same customer.
Yeah.
So can you leave us with the key things of how emotional loyalty specifically helps brands protect the retention of their customers from competition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So remember, experiences drive emotions, emotions drive behavior. The worst thing you want is for a consumer to not feel anything about your brand. It's likely that they won't do anything with your brand. They won't act. And you want them to buy. You want them to at least inquire, to give you a chance to sell. And so emotional loyalty, I think, is the key there, because it helps you get connected to your customers. It helps you understand what they want, and it cuts through all the other stuff. And if you're making an emotional connection with a customer, and you're doing that through the values, building on the values, and they have to be done authentically. Don't just say you have values towards this and that. Make sure you back them up. So you have to be authentic. But if you think about the values, you think about, the experience that you offer, think about how you personalize. Those are ways to get to that emotional loyalty. But ultimately, we're back to the enterprise need, because everybody in the enterprise has to be customer obsessed and focused on delivering the best experience possible, no matter what their role is, to create a positive experience that generates the positive emotions. But those emotions are lasting. Think about the dad who's home when mom's away, and the 3 kids, and it's Friday night, and he orders pizza, and pizza comes on time, delivered on time, and it's what the kids want. He's like their hero. We get pizza today. That's an emotion that's created. That father then says, wow, I'm the hero because I bought pizza. That is a lasting thing. He's going to think of that next time he says, what do I feed the kids, right? He's going to go back to the pizza. So that's just an example of how emotions are really sort of lasting, and they hit a different place of you than in your mind. I don't know if it's left brain, right brain, but they hit a different place And when you get to the point where, you know, you say Apple and you say, oh, I love Apple, you know, your body says you love Apple, right? That's a success at a brand. Did I answer that question?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much that has changed over the course of the last year and really emphasized the need for brands to showcase their values and deliver through an authentic way that validates their support for different causes. There's a lot about people are voting with their wallet. They're deciding, you covered a lot of that today, deciding to stay with brands because of who they and what they identify with. So I really appreciate all of the, again, examples and topics that we went through today. I think hopefully a lot of people walked away with valuable examples and some of the initial tools to really build that business case for loyalty. So thank you so much, Mary.
Well, thank you.